On the 30th of April 1945, before taking his own life, Adolf Hitler and his mistress Eva Braun burned all their documents, photographs, everything. Hitler wanted nothing to be left behind. At that time, no one knew what happened in the bunker before Hitler's death. But now, after 70 years, thanks to a French officer, Commandant Raymond Rose, who is no more in this world and a privateer, some new political and personal documents of Hitler have come to light. These unique documents, which have come to light for the first time, give us a chance to understand a few important moments of Hitler's last days in a more detailed manner. What was the atmosphere in the bunker? Why did Hitler marry Eva Braun just 24 hours before his death? Which of Hitler's close associates betrayed him in the last 10 days of his life? When was the decision taken in which he planned to take his own life, and most importantly, what was that thing? After Hitler's death, everyone was trying to see and understand the bunker. On the 25th of November 1945, Commandant Raymond Rose, who was a French officer, went inside the bunker. There were 26 stairs to go inside the bunker, which led to a dark room. There he saw a dark and dirty room where there were scattered papers, upside-down furniture, and candle wax everywhere. Rose found some documents which shed new light on Hitler's last days. These documents show that Hitler was firm on his decision till the end, and he was looking for victory for himself, even in his death. Just 10 days before Hitler's death, the dream of Nazi Germany, which was once seen to rule the world, had now become just a dream. Hitler's empire, which was once one of the most powerful empires in the world and which was a thorn in the throat of the Western powers, was now counting its last moments. Berlin, which was Hitler's dream and the center of power, had become a heap of rubble. There was destruction, fear, and death everywhere. Bombs of the Allied forces were raining everywhere, and the Red Army was just 100 kilometers away. Hitler, who was about to become the target of his own prey, was now hidden in the darkness of a bunker which was built 7 meters below the ground near the Brandenburg Gate in Berlin. This was no ordinary bunker, but it was made very strong and bomb-proof, according to the design of Albert Speer, who was Hitler's personal architect. It was built in 1936, but then in 1943 and 1944, after the Allied bombings became more dangerous, it was made even stronger. This bunker was called, in German language, it was called the Führer bunker. Fu means leader, that is, leader's bunker. This was the bunker where Adolf Hitler, who dreamed of ruling the whole world, was hiding, and it was here that he spent the last days of his life. The atmosphere of the bunker was very depressed. Silence, thick concrete walls, cold and damp atmosphere, darkness reigned. This bunker was like a maze, with small corridors and rooms where one felt suffocated. In this bunker there was a 3-roomed room for Hitler. There were private spaces, one of which was a meeting room where he held meetings twice a day for his military operations. There was a small room for Eva Braun, his mistress, and both of them also shared a bathroom. The atmosphere of this bunker was full of depression and fear. Being underground, there was a mechanical ventilation system for air which kept making noise all the time. This noise was not only a physical discomfort, but also a mental torture for the people living here. In the last 10 days, Hitler was not only physically broken, but also mentally broken. He had Parkinson's disease, a disease of hand tremors. To hide this disease, he would often keep his left hand in his pocket, or keep it in such a position that the person in front would not be able to know. In the last 10 days, his hand would constantly tremble, and he would also have difficulty in burning. Doctors said that in the last 10 days, Hitler, his face was so pale and tired that he looked 15 years older than his age. During these days, all the officers who met him were shocked to see his deteriorating health condition. Even Hitler's personal doctor, Theodor Morell, who was present in the bunker, used to give him glucose and vitamin injections daily. But all this was not enough to improve his health. Hitler's loss of control over his hands was the biggest proof of his declining morale. The daily routine in the bunker was extremely boring. Every morning there was a military meeting in which his generals would warn him about the situation in Berlin. The news of gradually losing control over Berlin was frustrating Hitler. Distrust was included in Hitler's nature, that is, he did not trust anyone easily. This was the reason that even in his last days, he was worried about the fact that one of his generals might betray him, And in reality also, later on he would betray him. Something similar happened in the last days when everyone was thinking of escaping from the bunker. Eva Braun supported Hitler. Eva Braun was Hitler's 13-year-old mistress. They were not married, but she still lived with Hitler in the bunker. Experts say that it was Eva Braun's insistence to stay with Hitler in the bunker, and perhaps this was the reason for Hitler's weakness. Eva was a romantic and emotional girl who wanted to stay with Hitler till the end. Some letters of Eva were found which she had written to her friends. Only after reading these letters could we find out something about Hitler and Eva's private life. The purpose of Eva's life was to stay with Hitler. In one of her letters she had written that this place is very scary, but I'm happy here because Hitler is with me. Inside the bunker, Eva's daily routine was very limited. She often spent time in her room arranging her photographs, or sometimes had coffee with Hitler, but one thing that is clear from her letter is that Eva Braun was feeling very lonely. This letter not only shows Eva's love and loyalty, but also shows her inner fear and loneliness. If we talk about the situation outside the bunker, then, in the last 10 days, Berlin had become a battlefield. Allied bombers were dropping bombs on Berlin every day and every night. The Red Army, that is the military of the Soviet Union, was fighting Hitler's army on the border of Berlin, a few kilometers away from the bunker. Of course, Hitler's army had 900 tanks and about 5 lakh German soldiers to protect Berlin at that time, but despite all this, the forces of Nazi Germany were melting. Hitler, whose dream of ruling here for 1,000 years, was now failing miserably. The people of Berlin were hiding in bunkers and rooftops. They were trying to save their lives by hiding under the roof of the house. But on the other hand, only Nazi propaganda and music were being heard on the radio. Soon the Red Army soldiers defeated the German forces on all sides on the outskirts of Berlin. A German soldier said that when he came back to Berlin, he found it difficult to recognize the city because there were heaps of rubble everywhere. This was the time when the German army also started seeing the end of Hitler's leadership. A few days before Hitler's death, another drama unfolded. Hermann Göring, who was the chief of the German Air Force in the Nazi regime, expressed his intention that he wanted to gain power. Hermann Göring was a close associate of Hitler, to whom Hitler had given various positions. In 1933, Hitler made him in charge of the Air Ministry. In 1935, he was made Commander-in-Chief of the German Air Force. In 1936, he was made in charge of the 4-year plan, which was the main objective of Germany's Air Force. It was created to boost the economy, and then in 1941, Hitler gave Hermann Göring the position of his successor and deputy, which meant that Göring was to take control after Hitler. Göring believed that Hitler was stuck in Berlin, and now the control of leadership should come in his hands. He sent a telegram to Hitler in which he wrote that if Hitler cannot take any more decisions, then he should transfer the official leadership. Seeing this, Hitler, who was already very depressed, became furious, and he removed Göring from all the positions and declared him a traitor and issued orders to arrest him. Later, Hermann Göring was arrested and sentenced to death, but he took his own life by consuming poison just a few hours before his death. On one hand, the Red Army was entering Berlin, and on the other hand, Hitler's close associate betrayed him. All this environment was making Hitler do everything he could, but he was forcing me to do something which he had never imagined. It was the day of the 29th of April, 1945. Hitler called his neighbors and said that the time had come. At 1 o'clock in the night, he officially married his longtime mistress, Eva Braun. This marriage took place in the same bunker in front of 2 or 3 officers. After the marriage, he called his secretary and asked her to write his will, in which Hitler's words were that I and my wife Eva have chosen death. Death is better for us than the shame of surrender. Unfortunately, this marriage lasted only for 1 day. On the 30th of April, 1945, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Hitler poisoned his dog named Bloody and went to the room with Eva. Exactly 24 hours after the marriage, both of them ended their lives in the room itself. Hitler killed himself with a pistol, while Eva embraced death by eating a cyanide capsule. The bunker staff already had instructions, so they took both the bodies to the courtyard and set them on fire. Hitler did not want to leave any trace behind him. Before dying, both of them burned documents and their own photographs and finally ordered to burn himself too. All this shows that Hitler did not want to surrender himself to his prey even till his death, and that the Soviet soldiers could not capture his body and show it to the world as a trophy. That is why he ordered to burn his body. When the Red Army reached the bunker, they found only burnt remains, but it was found out after a lot of investigation that these were Hitler's when they took samples of Hitler's teeth. This bridge helped in identifying Hitler's body. Hope you like this video of HS Stories. See you in the next video. Take care of yourself.